It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Good to have you in studio today. With us in studio is George Howard with the National Weather Service in Flagstaff. We always love when you come and visit us.
I always love to visit.
Monsoon season's coming up just around the corner, and that's why we brought you in. I think we've had you here. This will probably be the third or fourth time we've had you come in and talk specifically about monsoon season and the dangers of the monsoon. But before we get to the monsoon, let's talk about spring.
Okay.
Because you were here in the winter, and we talked about winter and how you had a map with you, and it showed California, Arizona, New Mexico, and so on and so forth across. Very red, very dry.
Right.
We've lived up to that.
Yes, we're still there. We've had the finish up to our winter was really awfully dry, and springtime is normally dry for us. So you put those things together, and yeah, we're still in serious drought.
Something I took a lot of flack from it because I did the story with you on this. We had that last snowstorm in Flagstaff,
right?
And you described it as a very dry snow.
Yes.
And after hearing that, I thought, okay, what is a dry snow? I know what a dry snow is. It's that snow that you blow on it.
That's right.
And you can see it disappear. Yeah. But people are like, well, no, that's 2 feet of snow. That's snow. But it was dry snow. Explain yourself on that one.
Explain myself.
Yeah, explain yourself on that one. Because explain what dry snow is, because I can see what it is.
Usually when we have snowfall at colder temperatures, the flakes literally are drier. There's no wet surface on the flake itself. It's completely frozen. And the flakes tend to grow larger and they tend to be fluffier. And so when they stack up with more airspace in there. So when we say a dry snow, the snow over here is dry, the snow over here is dry. When we say dry snow, we mean if we take this and we melt it, we're going to have less moisture in that 2-foot stack of snow than if we melt this stack of snow.
Gotcha.
So this 2 feet of snow may only be an inch worth of moisture. The 2 feet over here may be 2 inches of moisture.
Well, I wish we had gotten that 2 feet.
Well, yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, because it has been extremely dry now for quite a while. I can't remember actually the last day that we had any moisture fall here in the Verde Valley, Flagstaff, anywhere. I can't remember. Is this trend going to end soon? Do we have some moisture in the forecast? How does monsoon look coming?
The trend is going to end when we see the monsoon season start effectively. Yeah. Because May and June are our 2 driest months around here.
Okay.
And for most of central and northern Arizona, we haven't seen any precipitation at all through the month of May. Typically, we'd see, depending on the location, we'd see somewhere between 1/3 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch of precipitation during the month of May. But it's just been dry, dry, dry.
I noticed that I went back and looked at last year's highs and lows. I was telling you this before the show, and then this May's highs and lows. And we'll have, by the end of this month, 15 days here at the radio station that it's been 90 or above. Where last year we had 6 days during the month of June, or during the month of May, that was 90 or above. It's been a hotter spring. It almost feels like we went from winter right to summer.
Well, I'd agree with you that it's been a hotter May, certainly, and that's what's sticking in our minds. Earlier in the spring, we had some really unusual storms move in off the Pacific that took a really southerly track over the state, and we'd end up with cool air being brought in with those. As we've gone on into May, we've seen high pressure building over the southwest, and we've seen actually the temperatures climb, and that cool air remaining well to our north.
Okay, let's talk monsoon, because that is supposed to be coming around the corner. When is our monsoon season? Because we do have a season, if people aren't aware of that yet.
It's kind of like the hurricane season.
Right.
We say between this date and this date, we're susceptible to the hazards that those thunderstorms are going to bring to us. And that goes from June 15th through September 30th.
Okay. And how's it looking right now? Do we know? Because I asked you last fall and in the winter about monsoon, and of course we just didn't know.
Now, you might recall it's a little bit tough to say, okay, the monsoon's going to start early or the monsoon's going to start late, sort of thing. What it all depends on is how quickly the Colorado Plateau heats up in the springtime. The longer we have precipitation and cool weather in the spring, usually the longer it takes for the plateau to heat up and the longer it takes for moisture to be pulled northward out of Old Mexico and off the Pacific. you know, after our discussion just now about the elevated temperatures here recently, the high pressure over the southwest at this point, with the warmer temperatures, is heating up the plateau a little more quickly. So you could conceivably say, okay, that's going to draw moisture northward a little bit earlier than on another occasion.
Okay.
But it really is tough to tell. It all depends on how quickly and how long the Colorado Plateau stays heated.
Irregardless, we do have a monsoon season. It's bound to come. And when they do come, you know, I was born in Minnesota, and I remember the storms. You know, we'd have strong storms that came through.
Oh, sure.
And sometimes you'd have rain for a few days, but it was a light rain. But I've noticed in Arizona, boy, when it's going to do something, it's either all or nothing at all. And so when monsoon does get here, there are a lot of dangers that you have to think about. You don't have to sit there and be afraid the whole time monsoon's around, but there are things you should take into consideration when you're out and about.
Sure.
So let's start with one of the first ones, and I think it's we've had some horrible tragedies happen with that, and that is the flash flooding that can occur.
You know, that's a good topic to talk about first, because that is the thunderstorm hazard, the monsoon season hazard that kills more Arizonans than any other.
Okay.
And we lose 2 to 3 people every year.
Wow.
On average. And the thing that's best, if you want to say best, the silver lining, I guess you would say, about dealing with flash flooding is common sense goes a long, long way to safeguarding yourself. There are a couple of things you don't want to do, two primarily. One, you don't want to be in any sort of a waterway, any sort of a channel, an arroyo, a wash, creek bed, that sort of thing, canyon, slot canyon. Anytime there are thunderstorms in the forecast, because those are going to be channels for water being carried away from the thunderstorms. And even though you may see blue sky above and thunderstorms are miles away, that water can travel an awfully long distance and catch you unaware. So you don't want to be down in those low areas. You don't want to put yourself in that danger.
That's the problem, right? People like to, they say, oh, that's way the heck over there, so
Right.
I've got nothing to worry
out
about.
of sight,
But-
out of mind.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But you really, so do pay attention to the forecast and take that into account. Stay out of those low areas. Do not, you know, camp on that nice little sandbar in that dry creek bed.
Right.
Don't do that. Second thing you can do is do not drive into water over a roadway.
We see that one all the time.
And that actually is where most fatalities occur. The two things you can do to get around that is stop, wait for the water to subside, and make sure that it's safe to proceed, or find another route. And
How much
so-
water does it take to move a vehicle? Do you know?
It depends on the vehicle, of course, but it's surprisingly little. You know, the bigger the vehicle, it doesn't mean that it's not susceptible to being carried off. I mean, after all, you know, a battleship floats.
Exactly.
Okay, so you can get, it depends again on the vehicle, but you can get somewhere between 8 and 10 inches of water moving rapidly, and you can take a vehicle downstream.
Yeah, we see it so many times at Mormons Crossing in Cornville. I think we have 2 or 3 a year where somebody thinks they can make it across that low water crossing, and next thing you know, their vehicle's 100 yards down the creek bed.
Yeah.
So flash flooding, stay away from that. You know what? We should take our break.
Okay.
George Howard, the National Weather Service in studio today. Monsoon season coming up June 15th through September 30th. We're going to talk about a few more of the things you need to be aware of when you're out and about during the monsoon season. Stick around. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Hi, I'm Steve Scourge with Yavapai Silent Witness. Marcel Gonzalez was murdered on this spot almost 15 years ago, back in March of 1997. We know that there is somebody out there who knows what happened in the alley that night. Yavapai Silent Witness is offering an $11,000 cash reward for information that leads to the arrest of Marcel's killer. For Yavapai Silent Witness, I'm Steve Scourge.
The pain will not control us. It will never break us, define us, or keep us still. Because arthritis can't beat us if we beat it first. In the fight against arthritis, you need a weapon. What's yours? Visit the Arthritis Foundation at fightarthritispain.org.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. George Howard with the National Weather Service in Flagstaff in studio today. We're talking about the upcoming monsoon season. We talked about flash flooding, and the main goal there is, despite the fact there's no storm nearby, but you can see it happening off in the distance, that means it's raining out there possibly, and that water will eventually possibly get down to where you are. So don't be setting up camp in areas like that and hiking. I think we had a Boy Scout troop a few years back that got hit by a flash flood, and I know we've had some other instances down here too. Lightning. There's another big one that comes with the monsoon.
True. Now, we talked about how with a little common sense you can avoid flash flooding and the dangers that it brings. Lightning, though, is probably the single monsoon season hazard that all of us are exposed to at one time or another. Whether it's walking from your car to the grocery store or whatever it happened at school, wherever it may be. So it's one that I like to emphasize. Again, this kills 1 to 2 people in northern Arizona and central Arizona each year. Some of those are tourists, visitors, and some of those are our neighbors. The main thing to remember when it comes to lightning safety is there is no safe place outdoors.
Okay.
Indoors, here in the studio, in your home, in your school, in a store, whatever it happens to be, is the best place to be, because if lightning strikes the structure, what's going to happen is it's going to look for metallic conductors, phone lines, piping, electrical wiring, whatever it happens to be. It's going to follow those conductors to ground and discharge into the earth. And you're going to be fine. It's going to be loud. You may have something damaged, but you're going to be okay. So the main thing to remember is to stay inside. Now, if you can't be inside, if you need to find someplace safe outside of a structure, you're out in the woods or something, inside a hard-topped vehicle is going to be nearly as good for you.
Okay.
So what you'll do is you'll get inside that hard-top vehicle, roll up the windows, and sit there away from the metallic body of the car and wait for the storm to pass. If the vehicle should be struck, it's going to hit that metal body of the car, move down to the undercarriage or the wheels of the car, and make the short jump to ground and discharge again. It'll be loud, it'll be scary, but you'll be safe. Now, there are some people that say, now wait a minute, my car's got rubber tires on it, I'm well insulated. You have to kind of put things in perspective. There's so much electrical charge in these thunderstorms, it's no problem for that bolt of lightning to jump through miles of air between the base of the storm and the ground. And air's a good insulator. So it's going to be no problem for the lightning to jump either from the undercarriage of the car or the wheels down to ground and discharge.
What makes lightning? As simply as you can put it.
Okay. Some of our viewers, some of our listeners may remember as kids they'd scuff along the rug and snap a brother or a sister.
I still do that to my wife all the time. Yeah. Static charge. It's fun.
That's the same principle at work in a thunderstorm.
Okay.
Except instead of scuffing across a few feet of rug, what you have is an updraft in the storm and a downdraft in the storm, and you have little pieces of ice in there that are rubbing past each other, doing that same sort of electrical charge build up, except instead of doing it for a few feet, they're doing it over a few miles.
Okay. Wow. All right.
And you can actually get hundreds of thousands of volts of electrical charge built up in these thunderstorms. And that's what gives them the ability to, instead of jumping across a small distance like between my fingers, they can jump across miles of air.
Yeah. Okay, lightning. Now the next one we want to talk about, and I've actually been affected by this one, and I think it's probably the only weather-related outside of having to shovel snow every now and again that's actually affected me personally, and that is these micro downbursts that come along. We had some down here in the Verde Valley several years back, and I remember I lost a fence, a driveway, a tree in my front yard, and I remember seeing, this is out in Verde Villages, I remember seeing rows and rows of telephone poles just twisted right off. And then I think the next year it happened again, almost in the same location again. What is this that comes down? And it's such a mighty force all of a sudden.
It is. As the thunderstorm builds, you see the precipitation particles, raindrops, hailstones, whatever they are. Those things get bigger and bigger. Finally, these things are large enough that the updraft can't support them anymore, and they start to fall through the cloud. As they fall through the cloud, they drag air with them just because of friction. And this is what provides the start of the downdraft. This gains momentum with gravity as it falls down toward the earth. It exits the bottom of the cloud, and we see precipitation coming out of the bottom of the cloud.
Sure.
And all this cool, dense air moving right along with it. Well, what happens is it's as if I were to take a glass of water and pour it out on the table here. It comes down, it can't go into the ground, so it hits the ground and it spreads out in all directions.
Wow.
So it takes that vertical motion and turns it into horizontal motion.
Okay.
And that's what gives you the downburst winds that are taking down your fence, that are taking down telephone poles, those sorts of things. And in particular circumstances, you can get damaging winds 60 to 100 and more miles per hour.
I remember when it hit, it was truly amazing because it was just a basic storm, it felt like. And then all of a sudden, you could just look out the window and the trees were just bending over.
Yeah, and the change is very, very abrupt. I mean,
so there is no real warning to this? That you could look at it and say, ooh, that could be...
Anytime you have a thunderstorm, there's some risk of that.
Okay.
Every time. If the storm is moving away from you, there's somewhat less risk. If it's moving toward you, there's a greater risk because you have to add the momentum of the storm motion to the wind speeds. And if the storm is moving toward you, it could be really pretty drastic.
I got one for you.
Okay.
You see it in movies all the time, and people do it, and I've even done it. Is it true that when you've got a thunderstorm coming through, and you know something you tell your kids because they're scared at night, just out of curiosity right now, there's the 1/1000, 2/1000, 3/1000, ba-boom, you know, and then 1/1000, 2. Is that true? Is that accurate?
You mean
counting,
determine how far away the storm is?
Whether it's coming towards you or going away from you. Is that?
I don't know if you can tell the storm motion so much, but you can get some idea of how far away the storm is.
Okay.
Okay. And the principle is this. You know, if you see the flash of lightning, okay, that light is traveling very, very quickly. But the sound travels much more slowly, okay? And it turns out the speed of sound is around 1,000 feet per second.
Wow.
So what you can do is you can see the lightning flash, you can say 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. And for every 5 seconds you count, that storm is about a mile away. Because 5 seconds is 5,000 feet, about a mile.
Okay.
So it takes the sound, you know, a full 5 seconds to get to you if it's a mile away. So if you count to 10,000 before the sound gets to you, the storm is maybe 2 miles away. The only hitch is sometimes if you have strong winds in the area, that can alter kind of the propagation of the sound in your direction. But it can, at least this counting thing can give you a rough estimate.
Well, yeah, I was just curious. You know, it just kind of popped in my head while we were talking there. We have to take another break. Okay. George Howard, the National Weather Service in studio today. I'm Paul David. Monsoon season coming up just around the corner, June 15th through September 30th. And typically, I think we have our monsoon right around the 4th of July. Stick around. County Wide will be back in just a couple minutes.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
About the dangers of prescription drug abuse. The partnership at drugfree.org.
Hi, I'm Steve Scourgy with Yavapai Silent Witness. Maricel Gonzalez was murdered on this spot almost 15 years ago, back in March of 1997. We know that there is somebody out there who knows what happened in the alley that night. Yavapai Silent Witness is offering an $11,000 cash reward for information that leads to the arrest of Marcel's killer. For Yavapai Silent Witness, I'm Steve Skurja.
Every year, 2 million kids play doctor by taking pills not prescribed to them. Talk to your kids about the dangers of prescription drug abuse. The partnership at drugfree.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. Good to have you along. George Howard with the National Weather Service in studio today. If you haven't heard, the monsoon season starts June 15th and it runs through September 30th. We want to hit one more, we got two more topics to hit, and that is, you explained dry snow. There is dry lightning out there. It happens.
Yeah,
it's a danger.
There's another a label that, we put on things that might be a little bit confusing.
I love them.
During our summertime monsoon season, we see a thunderstorm over there. We see the rain and hail and whatever else coming out the bottom of the cloud and reaching the ground. Mm-hmm. And that's something, we would call that a wet thunderstorm, or we've actually got the precipitation reaching the ground. On the other hand, early in the monsoon season, maybe in the weeks, in the last half of June coming up, or early part of July before the season really starts going, a lot of times the air down toward the surface is still relatively dry, and we've had moisture come in above, and we have enough moisture to build thunderstorms, but when that rainfall comes out of the bottom of the cloud, it starts to evaporate. And it turns into that gray veil of rainfall that you see hanging below the cloud but not hitting the ground.
Gotcha.
Okay, so here now you've got a thunderstorm with no rainfall hitting the ground, so no moisture down here. We call that a dry thunderstorm. And of course, being a thunderstorm, it's going to produce lightning. And when it does produce lightning, we call that particular phenomenon dry lightning. The storm is not getting anything wet and it's still producing lightning. And this can be a real hazard at the start of our monsoon season and in late spring when it comes to fire starts, because there's no moisture down here to moisten up the fuels,
right,
yet we've still got lightning as an ignition source.
Excessive heat's the last one. We've got about a minute and a half left in the program. Excessive heat. We're already there as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you know what? We were talking just a minute ago about what gets the monsoon started. You have to heat up the Colorado Plateau. And when you do that and heat up the rest of the state as well, yeah, you're looking at excessive heat in many situations. And just recently as a week or two ago, you can remember excessive heat in the Phoenix area, some other valley locations. And it can be a real hazard. We talk about the fatalities related to flash flooding and lightning that occur during the monsoon season. The largest weather-related killer in the state is excessive heat. So we've got to safeguard ourselves.
So basically, stay cool, stay hydrated, drink lots of water.
If you're going to do any strenuous work outside, do it during the cool part of the day.
Cool part of the day. All right. We've got just a little more time left. Anything else that we should think about? Best place to find weather information is your guys' website.
Yeah, you can go to weather.gov and click on the national map and get weather anywhere in the country. If you want to go right to our site for Northern Arizona, weather.gov/Flagstaff.
That's where I go every morning. Basically, when I come in at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., whichever day it happens to be, I go right to the website, and you guys have got everything nice and listed up here. The map's got the color code on the red flag days. We've had a ton of those recently, and you can click anywhere on that map and get the temperature from around the state, the current temperature, as well as the forecast for the next, it's 7 days. 7 days.
That's
so
right.
It's a wonderful website. George Howard, it was good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good to see you, Paul.
I'm Paul David. That's today's Countywide. Don't forget, monsoon season, June 15th through September 20th. We should see our first storm somewhere late June, early July. Keep it here on Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.